Iguodala down to 5. Klay Thompson at 3. Klay Thompson will turn for the game winner. Good! 6:10 left. 6:10 left. Indiana takes time. 16 in the fourth for Klay Thompson. And the turnaround baseline jumper to give the Warriors the lead.
We're going to bring y'all into our huddle.
Today's Tuesday, March 11th, 2014, and you are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
Scotty, it's been a couple weeks, huh?
It has been, and there's a lot that's gone down since then.
Do you feel guilty that we haven't been able to record at all, or do you not really delve into that kind of emotional shallowness?
I think that the huddle jinx may be in effect again. I mean, last week I had some notes prepared when I thought we were going to record, and I was saying I was nervous because the Warriors looked like they might be falling out of the playoffs. We didn't record, and now they're on a win streak.
I don't know what I'm more disappointed in, you for bringing up the idea of a huddle jinx or me for using the phrase delve and emotional shallowness. Nonetheless, the Warriors are on one hell of a tear, man. In fact, they've won 9 of 11, so you know we got big things to talk about. And the Warriors update, we're going to go through the Warriors' recent ass-kicking streak, including the huge win in Indiana and the gutty performance against the Suns, and also the ass-smashings they handed out to New York and Boston. And we're also going to answer a bunch of different questions, man. 1, who would win in a fight versus Speights and Tyson Chandler? 2, how do you tell a friend to shut the hell up if you're listening to a game on the radio and they just won't stop talking and won't let you focus? And finally, 3, after this streak, can we justifiably go back and consider the Warriors as dark horse contenders? But before we get to any of that, a couple of show notes. 1, Uber, baby. This thing is absolutely my favorite application for any phone you have, including the iPhone. If you don't have the money or the inclination to go pick it up and you need a cab, instead, use Uber. You press a button and they come to you. And do we still have that promotional code?
Not only do we have the promotional code, but we have a new special. So if you sign up for the first time to use Uber, enter in the huddle code huddle, HUDDLE.
Did you almost forget that?
No, I was on it. Just put it in a bad order.
Yeah.
And that'll get you $30 off your first ride. So it used to be $20. We've upped it to $30.
We're really reaching the big time, Scotty. And a quick reminder, this isn't some shady bullshit where we're trying to get your guys' information or get the credit card stuff. Nothing like that. Literally, it's a gift from us to you. $30. Go wherever the hell you want with it. Please use this thing.
And they've also just expanded to Santa Cruz. So if you're down there, definitely check it out.
There you go. All right, let's jump in and let's start with the past scores and current standings. 7 games by my count since the last time we had a chance to get underneath the mic, man. A 103-83 terrible loss to Chicago. Then a 126-103 redemptive win against New York. A 104-98 loss against Toronto. And then the wins started falling into place. 98-96 over Indiana, 108-88 over Boston, 111-97 over Atlanta, and most recently 113-107 versus Phoenix. We are now 40-24. Incidentally, the 3 years before Lacob bought the team, the Warriors never reached 40 wins. They now have 40 wins after only 64 games, so we've come a pretty far away, man. It kind of your make sure you appreciate Lacob reminder for the show. We're now 6th in the West, only 2.5 games behind Houston for 5th, and 3.5 games ahead of Phoenix, who is now in 9th. Memphis has finally made their way back into the playoff picture.
And that's a really important stat there because the Warriors are moving in the right direction and are actually catching up to those that are in front of them. Meanwhile, you got teams like Phoenix and Dallas that are falling farther behind the Warriors.
Which has always kind of been what I felt should be the case. You and I have talked about I don't understand how the hell Phoenix is doing it. I don't understand how the hell Dallas is doing it. Who knows? There's still some games left to be played.
And Portland, we didn't understand how they were doing it, and finally it's caught up to them too.
I'm sure that in a week we'll be announcing that they're like first in the West or something, but for now the playoffs are as they should be, at least in my opinion. Finally, and probably least importantly, the power rankings. Warriors have made their way back into the top 10, but just barely, which kind of upsets both me and I'm sure you, since we know how you now feel about Mark Stein. We are, in fact, number 10, the last possible spot we can be there, up from 11 of last week. You impressed?
No, I'm never impressed with Mark Stein.
We have so many games to cover that it really doesn't make sense to discuss each of them, and it certainly doesn't make sense to go through them chronologically. So what Scotty and I did, we talked about what games we ultimately want to go through. In fact, we did kind of a draft. That allowed us two things. One, we won't waste your guys' time talking about burger games like Atlanta. Two, we also got to have kind of a pseudo draft, which is always huge fun, you know?
Love drafts.
Who doesn't? First game, probably the most impressive, was the 98-96 win over the Pacers. How much you love this one, man?
This was a great win because the Pacers were the best team in the NBA at the time.
Yeah. And, I mean, we knew this was going to be remarkably tough. Not only the best team in the NBA, they're 29-3 at home. They've already beaten us twice, fairly convincingly. And randomly enough, I guess this is more of a testament to the East than it is to anything else, but they had an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot against us. They had a home court advantage. They had a sold-out home court and a chance to put up that little asterisk next to their name. So you know this one meant a lot to them.
The Warriors were really very calm and composed throughout this whole game. That's what I was really impressed with. Every time Indiana made a run, the Warriors came back, and I feel like they matched them almost shot for shot.
Yeah, you know, I had a similar thing. What I had here in my notes is that they grinded it out with a Pacer team that specializes in doing exactly that. This isn't one of those things where the Warriors got crazy hot and they had someone score 45. And it wasn't one where they played amazing defense and kept them, 20% shooting. They played well enough to stay with a championship contending team all the way through the end and then pulled it out when they needed it. That's the kind of win you want to see from a team that's trying to become consistent and trying to get to that next level.
And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but just to that Klay Thompson game-winning shot.
You're jumping ahead. I mean, it is what it is. I guess we do, in fact, have to jump all the way to that. Now, jokes aside, of course, that's worth saying it. Before we even get to the game winner, give him credit where it's due. That fool dominated, and mostly in the fourth. We spent so much time bitching about Klay in the first, half of the year. He's been slowly getting it together, and I think this was kind of his exclamation point game. He ended up with 25, 16 of that in the fourth quarter, and just like you mentioned, Scotty, he hit this game winner.
9 seconds, 8 seconds. Andre between the circles. Nobody moving. Draymond Green get to the Klay Thompson. They're going with Klay. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Spins, fires, and hits it. Klay Thompson nailed it with 0.6 to go. Warriors take the lead. 98-96. Klay Thompson spinning to the baseline. Knocked it down.
It's been a full week since Klay hit that shot. Obviously, I know how that play ended. I watched it live. I pulled this clip. Nothing there was surprising. Yet and still, when Tim Roy got all fired up, I couldn't stop myself from throwing out a little fist pump. Dude, how fired up does that play make you?
I was really fired up, and actually it brings back memories because I had to listen to this game on the radio because I was driving down to Fresno.
Oh.
And so I missed it, but luckily got the radio broadcast from Tim Roy. I don't listen to a lot of radio. I was really impressed by Tim Roy. He's doing this broadcast all by himself. Yep. So he's doing the play-by-play and the color commentary and does the entire game and just crushes it, number one. Number two, they throw in a lot of sound bites and interview clips throughout the game, and it really adds a nice little feature and gives you a little break from Roy.
I love Roy. He did the color in this game because it was on the road. They got Tommy Tolbert coming in for the home games, but Roy's always done a great job. One of the things I love about Roy is that he calls the game while he's calling it. He'll say things like, traveling, no call, and then just keep right on going, which is badass. Let's see. You're bringing up multiple points. I want to make sure we catch all of them. One, listening to the game on the radio. I didn't listen to this one on the radio. I guess it was the Boston game, but it was the first half for me, and I wasn't in the car on my own. Was that what you were doing? Were you on your...
Yeah, I was just solo.
All right, so I got no problem with that. I can get... In fact, if I got a long drive and I got a game going, I'm fired up. Like I'm on my way to L.A. or something, that's perfect timing. This one, it was only the first half. I'm on my way to a friend's house, and there's another guy in the car, and we're listening, and he won't shut up. Like, he'll occasionally have a take here about the Warriors, then he'll ask me if I've seen this movie or if I'm watching True Detective. And, like, look, I like talking to my friends. I picked this dude for a reason. I enjoy conversations with him. But we got to come up with some kind of code word or something, man, some kind of man rule. If we're listening to a game in the car and we're both Warrior fans, shut the hell up. Just sit back and listen to the game.
But what was the agreement when it was put on? Like, when you turned on your car, did it just happen to be on? Or did you make a point of being like, all right, let's try to find the radio broadcast. You mess around with different stations and
I'm
then
not trying
finally
to
land on it.
find the radio broadcast. This is on preset 1 on AM, and there was no discussion outside of me going, Warriors, and then threw it on. We listened uninterrupted for at least 2 to 3 minutes. Then the questions began. Have you seen the most recent True Detective? I don't care. Listen to the game. So what do you think? If I'm in the car, is there an obligation to have normal conversation? Or if he is a basketball fan, can we just shut up and listen?
You got to be quiet and talk during timeouts and commercial breaks.
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of time to catch up, and he should definitely respect the fact that the game is on. It's tough though. Audio, people just have a lot of trouble focusing.
You're absolutely right. All right. Now, I don't want to bury the obvious lead, Klay's shot. He wasn't, or rather, I wasn't the only person fired up about that. Klay showed more emotion after making that shot than I think I've seen him in his entire Warrior career, although it didn't carry over into the post-game interview. Here's Klay breaking down that final hit.
All right, thank you, Bob. Klay, you guys came so far. You gave it up at the end, but you just had such great mental toughness. And tell us about that winning shot.
Well, I knew George Hill was topsiding me the whole time. And the possession earlier when I posted him up, I settled. And I knew I could just, use my body weight and fade from. I was paying that shot the whole time, honestly.
You do know your heroics in the fourth quarter. 16 of your 25 came in the fourth. You just gave him that lead. You gave him the confidence. What changed for you to come into the fourth quarter and get so hot? Went to the line first.
Yeah, that works. It gets you going. And they weren't helping that much off the pin downs. And teammate Steve Harrison, they got me 2 easy buckets. Draymond failed me on the cut, so I was trying to stay active without the ball, and I was just getting good looks.
So have you seen a replay of it?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you think of the final play? And by not the skill that Klay ultimately put up there, but the play that Jackson called. You and I have given him a lot of shit on those exact plays, so I thought it. What do you think?
Yeah, normally I am just a big hater on isolation plays.
Yep.
But this one I thought was a great call because it was a legitimate mismatch. I mean,
Because of George Hill?
Because of George Hill,
Yeah.
and Thompson has inches and inches on him. And so he's going to be able to get a nice open look in the post.
And he was hot. He hit, like we mentioned before, he hit 16 of the 24 in the fourth. So you knew he had it going a little bit. And it wasn't just a straightforward isolation. They had some misdirection going. They had Steph taking the ball out. They ran a couple screens for Iguodala. You got to figure the defense was focused on those two guys because those are the guys who've been hitting the game winners. So I'm with you. Normally I get really frustrated by this, but I think Jackson actually made the right call.
Yeah, well, the game winner speaks for itself. It was a weird release by Klay because he actually kicked his left foot forward, which is strange when you're kind of turning in the direction that he was.
It's kind of like a Rain Man observation. Good for you, Scott. I didn't see his feet at all. The only thing I noticed was how happy I was he hit it on George Hill. 3-4 plays before that, George Hill hit this completely ridiculous and one where he got fouled and just flung it over his head and it happened to go down, and that made me furious. So the idea that he had to watch Klay hit the game winner right over him somehow justified the fury I had, not 5 minutes before. Now, after the shot, Warriors seemingly had won it, but Indiana still had another chance. In fact, Paul George came down and with no time left, fired up a three from the exact same location that LeBron James hit his three right before the All-Star break. So let's just say I still have a little bit of PTSD from that LBJ dagger. Thank God the George one didn't fall.
That was scary. He got a great look. If you're Indiana, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Unfortunately true. My last take from this game is that the bench looked really good. We've already given a bunch of praises to Steve Blake. We've talked about how he made them better. I'll just leave it at this. It's not like they're winning games, but they're not losing games anymore. Before the Blake trade, I always felt super shady when our bench unit came in. I felt like we were just trying to buy time and tread water, and it was only a matter of time before the other team took advantage of their lack of skill. It's not like that anymore. I feel confident when they come on the floor. I know that they can maintain whatever lead we have or maybe even shrink any kind of deficit they're facing. It's a different feel, man. It makes this team far more dangerous.
Blake is definitely a huge addition. I don't feel quite as confident as you do there.
You're stupid.
Because you still have Jordan Crawford throwing up garbage shots
He is
right
so
and
good.
left.
You shut your face. He's much, much better than he used to be. Last couple takes, both of which on Indiana. One, Paul George sure is good at basketball. That dude, thank God he missed the last shot, but it was not the only shot he took. He ended up with, I think, 26 and 10. The reason I'm bringing him up is that every time I see him, he reminds me of where the Warriors used to be. Why? Because we could have drafted his ass. We picked up Epe Udo at the 6th spot under Larry Riley. George went number 10. We've got a great front office now, but it wasn't too long ago when we were missing out on gems like Paul George. So, it is what it is. I'm happy where we are, but we at least have to say it. 2, I think I've made this joke before, at least this observation. Let me say it again. I spent some time last week housing Kirilenko for his hair. Luis Scola might be the only guy in the league who has filthier looking hair than Kirilenko. So congratulations to you, Luis.
Man, always got to talk about some guy's hair.
Do you not have eyeballs? I mean, how are you not noticing the problems with these guys' hair?
I just don't think it's a problem.
Huge problem. All right, let's move on and let's flash forward to the future, more or less, since we're not going chronologically. Let's talk about the Phoenix win, 113-107. This, another kind of a tough matchup. Phoenix has been playing remarkably well all year. It's one of the teams the Warriors are wrestling with in the back half of the Western Conference playoff standings, and it's a team that's given it to the Warriors pretty hard the last couple times we played them. So I was nervous going into this one.
Oh, definitely nervous because this was a big game and was going to create either a lot of separation in the playoff race or bring things even closer. And the Warriors just had not had any luck against this team at all this season. And no. I don't know, Hornacek doing a great job coaching this team.
You're absolutely, that's the thing that kind of stuck out for me. We opened the show by saying we don't understand what their success levels are. I stick by that, but the thing that stuck out and kind of hit me is that this team really reflects its coach. Not just the style of play, but the style of player. Hornacek was a scrappy-ass dude. He was a jump-shooting white guy who seemed like he'd be down to fight anytime you needed him to, which is not something that generally goes together.
Those Steve Buscemi eyes.
Yeah, exactly right. And his tendency to pet his forehead when he hit shots from the free throw line. But the people they don't have the skill set that Hornacek used to have, but they got the same kind of scrappy mentality. People like Gerald Green, people like Miles Plumlee, people like Goran Dragic. It makes sense that he kind of has this bunch of losers who are willing to play really hard for one another, and that's what they do every time they come and play.
They play really hard, and they play really fast, and they play small, and that was the biggest adjustment that Jackson made this game, and I think what ultimately led them to get the victory is the Warriors, went small ball.
Yeah.
They put David Lee at center, they put Draymond Green at the 4, and I think that allowed them to match the speed of Phoenix without kind of missing a beat.
I think you're right, man. I think that generally speaking, the Warriors' defensive philosophy is to funnel people into their bigs. Shade one side, get them towards Bogut, get them towards Jermaine O'Neal, beat them on that, then pick up the rebound. Doesn't work with Phoenix because what they want is shots. They want to take outside either 3-pointers or 15-footers or something like that, So the idea of recognizing that and putting people on them who could stay with them, I think did make a really big difference. Great observation by you. This game was relatively close all the way through until the third quarter when the Warriors went on a 16-0 spurt, which was just awesome to watch. And at the center of that, yet again, was Klay, who continues to play huge, and Steph Curry, whose name we have not mentioned yet, which is a goddamn shame because it's a Warriors podcast and he should probably be in every other sentence.
Yeah, this was reminiscent of the last year's playoffs where it was that third quarter spurt that got them ahead and got them those victories.
Yep.
And they put on another one of those this game. I like how Klay's being aggressive.
Me too.
He's taking it to the basket. He's also developed a really nice mid-range game, and so he's not just taking the threes. So that was really important, and it's always fun to see Curry just get hot.
Well, it wasn't just you and it wasn't just I who noticed the 16-0 spurt. It was also Coach Jeff Hornacek. Here's Hornacek on the Warriors' big run.
They had that run in third, and we came out in the third quarter, weren't ready to go. You give up 38 points to a team, that's tough to overcome, especially in their own building. They had the momentum going. The guys fought hard in the fourth quarter, but when you're down that much and you make a run, everything has to go perfectly for you to get back in it.
Fool sounds like a canned math substitute teacher. He definitely does not sound like an NBA coach in any way, shape, or form.
It's pretty much how you would expect him to sound.
One of the things that was surprising about Steph's success that he came into this game supposedly limited. He's got a right thigh contusion that I guess he suffered against Boston. I looked it up. Contusion is a super fancy medical term for bruise, so I guess it wasn't too nasty. But he wasn't supposed to play more than 30 minutes. He did play right at the 30-minute mark, and they tried to take his ass out in the third quarter, and he waved him off. Steph begged to stay in. Jackson listened to him, and he ended up contributing. So I guess it was a right call by both of them.
I don't think this injury is anything to worry about. He's played the same amount of minutes in every single game since then, and I'm not really that concerned.
Have you ever played through an injury?
Yeah, I played through a lot of injuries.
I mean, like something big, like something where you weren't sure you were going to be able to play, or just like little ankle tweaks or something like that?
Mainly minor stuff.
Okay.
But I like to think that it was stuff that would keep some others out.
Did you announce it a bunch? You know, I'm pretty hurt tonight, but I'm going to be able to go through it. Or like halfway through, like, ooh, my ankle is killing me, but I just got to soldier on.
I try to lead by example where I can.
You announced it. I don't believe that at all. I have never played through an injury. Sometimes when I run out of breath, I feel like quitting this show, you know. So it's good that at least one of us has some kind of a backbone. A couple of takes on Phoenix for me. One, Dragic, great player, but he looks like someone's European little brother. I mean, if there's more of a cross between unnecessary youth and super Yuri than him, I don't know who the hell it is.
Good observation.
Thanks, man. I'd have nothing on his hair. Otherwise, I would have opened up with that immediately.
Oh, definitely. No doubt about that.
The second thing that hit me is that it's really weird playing a team with two brothers on it, two twins to be specific. It's like something out of the WWE. You know, I don't know. It's not something that I'm used to at all. And every time I see them on the court together, I imagine them finishing each other's sentences like these two G.I. Joe characters.
We'll let the Joes do that for us. G.I. Joe? But they're ignorant of our movements. Not anymore. They're right behind us. So take cover and await developments.
I don't know if that was so much finishing each other's sentences or both saying the same thing at the same time.
And unfortunately, their voices are almost identical. You have no idea how many clips I looked at to try to find one that like just perfectly illustrated this. I tell you what, when I first found it, I thought to myself, there might be people out there who call me out on it, but I didn't think my co-host was going to turn on me.
Well, I'm just trying to call it how I see it. But look, great G.I. Joe. Anytime you get a chance to play a G.I. Joe clip, I'm all about it. So whatever you need to do to work in more G.I. Joe references, do it.
I mean, we've almost covered a full 2 games. I've had all these great hair takes, and the only shit you've talked is against my G.I. Joe poll, you bastard.
That is right.
Factually correct, huh? Fair enough. All right, let's move on. The next big game was the win against New York, 126-103 win. This one was a huge homecoming. Mark Jackson, born in New York. David Lee played in New York for quite some time. And Steph Curry quite simply owns that city after his 54-point night there, 14 months ago. And none of them disappointed. This was just a molly-whopping win. Lawrence
Scott on Warriors TV said perhaps the most canned thing that I've heard in a broadcast or a post-game recap of this game. He goes, "The Splash Brothers watered the garden."
I mean, I guess it's factually correct. I don't really know exactly what it means. The whole watered the garden thing doesn't really work for me, but whatever works for you, Mr. Lawrence Scott.
Oh, man, that was just terrible. But I liked how the Warriors pushed the tempo in this game.
Did Lawrence Scott have any hair takes?
No, but he did love talking about youth-looking Euros.
Yeah, fair enough. And G.I. Joe quotes that don't make any sense at all. Well, to finish out the idea that this is just an ass smashing, Warriors led by as many as 27, had 73 first-half points, 126 total, and didn't even need to play their starters in the fourth. They ran away with this thing immediately.
I was reading a Knicks blog to just see what they had to say.
Yeah, in the Warrior or the enemy's huddle.
Yeah, just to see what they had to say about this. This was basically the summary of this game. Quote, "The Knicks lost to the Warriors because they are a garbage basketball team."
I mean, you can't argue with them. That is exactly 100% on the money. I mean, in fact, one of the things that struck me is how depressing it is in New York. Jeremy Tyler got a bunch of minutes in this game. They're dealing with the whole Raymond Felon thing. Do you follow that at all?
Yeah.
Where the guy's girlfriend apparently went to the police and turned him in for having 2 unlicensed guns, which incidentally, what the hell would lead to that? Did he cheat on her? Did he just break up with her? A girl doesn't just show up at 5-0 and it's like, oh, my boy has two guns I'd like to tell you about. So I wouldn't mind some maybe 30 for 30 action on that story if we could get it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Raymond Felton, not a guy I anticipated having 2 guns.
You and I both. And lest there be any confusion about how depressing it is there, listen to this quote from Carmelo.
Definitely frustrated. Just to, the games, how we losing the games. I keep saying we got to figure it out, but it's time now where we should have it, down pack right now. We shouldn't be in this position.
We were talking about how dominant the Warriors were. We even mentioned how Steph owns the city, and that was certainly true in this game. Guy had a triple-double in a little over 3 quarters, 24, 11, and 11. And I think it's even more impressive than the 54-point game. Most specifically, they won this one as opposed to last one. But to do that in 3 quarters, that is not an easy thing to do.
It's not. Getting a triple-double is never an easy thing to do. And I agree with you, is more impressive than 54 points. And this performance only to be outshined by, do you see Russell Westbrook the other night had a triple-double in like 21 minutes?
I did not see that, and I refuse to acknowledge it. Well, let me check. No, this is still called the Warriors Huddle. It's not the Thunder Huddle, so I do not care about what the hell Russell Westbrook did. Here's what I do care about. Towards the end of the game, frustration boils over, and Maurice Speights, Tyson Chandler get tangled up. Looks like they're going to fight. They ultimately get separated. No punches are thrown. Here's my question to you. If they let them go, Tyson Chandler, Maurice Speights, no holds barred fight, who do you got?
I go with Tyson Chandler.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
dude.
hell no.
Oh, my gosh. Definitely. Why? 3 reasons. Number 1, where this guy grew up. He started out living on a farm in Fresno, milking cows, slopping pigs, and then he moves to Compton for high school and goes to school in Compton. All right. Number 2, he has 3 brothers. You grow up with 3 brothers, you know how to fight, no questions asked. And number 3, experience. If Google Tyson Chandler fight, and you'll see the number of fights this guy's been in against Noah, Spencer Hawes, Andrew Bynum.
Did he get his ass kicked in all of them?
No. He has experience on his side. So there is no question in my mind Tyson would get this guy.
I have done absolutely no research. Literally, not one.
Who said this was research?
Not one. What, you just memorized where Tyson Chandler grew up and what high school he went to? I don't believe that for a heartbeat. Nonetheless, despite no research at all, I feel super confident in my Speights take. The guy outweighs him by like 70 pounds, at least. Bum rushes him immediately. He's got the face of someone who would probably play real dirty. By that I mean, I bet you this guy's been made fun of his whole life, just taking shots consistently, being overweight, a little bit pudgy, kind of a shady looking face. This dude is scrapped forever, and he would beat the shit out of Tyson Chandler. Big money on Chandler, or I'm sorry, big money on Speights. I would put Speights at a 3-1 favorite, probably at least.
I think that's crazy because Tyson also has the reach on him.
He does have reach.
He's got those long arms.
He'd have to dance around. I mean, that's the only thing I was concerned about. Like, he'd kind of use the entire ring, but that's why I went no holds barred. Speights is bum rushing his ass. I guess, unfortunately, until the NBA comes out with some kind of pay-per-view event where they let their players fight, we might not never get the answer to this question, huh?
No, I don't think we ever will get the answer. It's probably for the better.
Yeah, probably. Last thing for me, kind of cool seeing Tim Hardaway Jr. play. I love watching his father play, and anytime you get to see his son in the exact same name is kind of entertaining. So that part definitely caught my attention.
Yeah, I really enjoy seeing all these kids of NBA players that I grew up with now in the league. It's kind of cool.
I was going to try to come up with some other example and came up with nobody. Just nobody. Do you have
Steph
another
Curry,
kid?
maybe? You watch him every night?
Who is that? I have no idea. It's because the name isn't identical. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, Scotty. Then you're giving me that super disappointed look, too. All right, fair enough. Steph Curry. Let's move on to the Boston win, 108-88. This was a chance for them to finish off a very hot road trip against a reeling Boston team. And it was also Jordan Crawford's return, since this is the team that traded him off to us. Other side of that is a huge possibility of a trap game and a scheduled loss. The Warriors were playing back-to-back on the road, which is generally speaking a recipe for disaster.
Not only that, but they were also playing after the huge Indiana win. And the Warriors have struggled this year against bad teams and after big victories. Sure. So they had both of those things going against them, and they didn't lay down to that.
They didn't at all. If we say that in the New York game, the Warriors used their offense to dominate, we can say in this Boston game, they used their defense. They held them to 39% shooting, something that is very difficult to do even against a crap Eastern Conference team. In fact, Bogut even had a block at the three-point line, which is something you don't see too frequently, and they forced 22 turnovers that they converted into 24 of real easy points. So they kind of waltzed in there, punched this team in the mouth, and came out with a very easy win.
And they also went inside a lot. Their three-point shot was struggling, and they pounded it inside, which was kind of cool to see that they actually don't need to only rely on the outside jump shot, which is going to be important because there's no question in some playoff games your outside shot's not going to be falling, and they need to figure out what they're going to do when they face those nights. And this was an opportunity to figure that out, and they did.
You cannot count on a three-point game. You can't. Even with the type of elite shooters that the Warriors have, if you go into a playoff series, you better have a counter to that, and it's got to be a postgame. So I couldn't agree with you more. That postgame here was led by David Lee, 18 and 10, and Klay had another good game, a good 18 points as well. And all of these efforts impressed Coach Jackson. Here's Coach Jackson on how the defense led to a win.
Against a team, in all honesty, at this point we're better than. It was a type of game where you can overlook them. They compete. They're well coached. But fortunately, we came in there. We took care of business. We took care of the basketball. We defended again at a high level. And I thought our bench was very good once again. But a big-time win for us. And now it's about going home and taking care of business at home.
You guys obviously had this travels well. Is that what you saw from this team?
Yes. Again, for the 22nd time, we've held the team under 40%. That's getting it done defensively, and that's collectively getting it done. That's what allows us to be an effective road team.
We talked about this being Jordan Crawford's return. He had 15, not particularly impressive, but they were somewhat efficient. The days of him coming down and looking like just a chucker, I think, are done. Apparently, you don't agree with me on that. But Blake has taken the ball handling duties out of his hands. Now all he has to do is take shots from locations where Blake sets him up, and I think that's really helping him.
Did you watch the Phoenix game? This guy took crazy shots, like these twisting turnaround terrible shots. Actually, in the Phoenix game, I saw he made a lot of tough shots. So they went in, and he's the type of scorer where these do go in, but it's just he's like one of those guys that every time he shoots, I'm like, no. All right, good shot.
I'm sorry, did you just ask me a rhetorical question about whether or not I watched the Phoenix game and then made my point for me because his percentage continues to go up in that game as well?
That might be a pretty accurate summary.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about it. I felt fairly good about it.
I don't care if his percentages are going up because ultimately these type of shots catch up to you and it's going to drop back down.
I think you do care that he's making more of the shots than he used to make. I understand what you mean. He's not taking in particularly good shots, but with Blake, those shots and the locations he's taking them from are getting better and better. So hopefully we can address both of those concerns. Percentage goes up and he's no longer taking, what'd you say, twisting and turning shots?
Yeah, twisting, turning, bad shots.
We'll try to limit those twisting, turning, bad shots. Steph was only limited to 22 minutes because of the right leg contusion we were talking about before. This is the game that he suffered it in. Incidentally, did you know that Steph's father played in the NBA? Del Curry, man, he was look it up. He's pretty good. You can check that out afterwards. But even though he only played 22 minutes, he still ended up with 14 points. So not a world dominating performance, but one that warranted us to at least say something. Okay, next game, Chicago, 103-83 loss. We don't have to go through the details of this. This was a game, obviously, that depressed me. In fact, had we not won all these other games, I probably would have pretended like this one didn't happen at all. Only a couple of things I need your opinion on, Scotty. One, Steph looked terrible in this one, and it was Kirk Heinrich. And Kirk has had really good defensive efforts against Steph in the past. Do you believe in the whole matchup things? We've heard phrases like Kobe stopper or Jordan stopper. Can somebody just match up well, or is it just luck?
Matchups definitely play a huge role, and that's especially true when you get into the playoffs. There's no question about it. And now I think the Bulls, that's a different story. I don't think it's as much a matchup thing as it is the Bulls are just an incredible defensive team. They do this to any team that comes and plays them.
Just physical, push you around, good schemes.
Swarming you at all times. That's what made me most worried about this game was it basically provided a step-by-step video of how to shut down Steph Curry.
Right.
You run double teams at him, you swarm him, you get physical with him, you bump him. He only had 5 points and provided an incredible example to other teams scouting the Warriors on how to shut him down.
You get someone like Kirk Heinrich, who I think had a really prominent role in Lord of the Rings. Seriously, this guy either is an elf or just has some very strange facial features. In fact, he and Kelly Olynyk, I think, should team up and shoot some kind of a spin-off series to The Hobbit. Just a random suggestion, up to them whether or not they want to take it. The second thing, and the main reason I'm bringing this up to you, is this quote from Mark Jackson about the game.
Those losses, as crazy as it sounds, it develops you also. You know, you just don't learn during times of winning or playing great basketball. Some of the best teaching tools and teaching points are when you're struggling and when you have bad performances.
So do you agree with Coach Jackson that a loss like this, 80-point ass-smashing loss, can actually be a positive, something that the team can learn from?
Yeah, definitely. There's always a chance to learn, even in victories. But in this game in particular, I think they really need to learn what to do when Steph Curry doesn't have the ball in his hands. Because at the time of this game, at least, Curry was basically credited for 42% of the Warriors' offense. That's from scoring or assists. And
something tells me you didn't just come up with that off the top of your head, huh?
Like the point before, I mean, that was no research there. But, I mean, that's more than LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, John Wall. So it shows you just how much Curry means to this team, and you saw it in this game. When he didn't have the ball in his hands, the Warriors didn't really know what to do. So that's what I hope they take away from this.
You hear that stat, and you hear the other names that he's beating out, and you view it as a positive. You know, wow, the Steph's playing really good, but your point, and it's a really solid one, is that actually that's really negative. Because if they find a way to take him away, and now you're left with 48% of the offense, I get that number right? If you're left with that, you can be really screwed. So no, I think that's phenomenal. I don't know if I agree with Jackson. If this is a college team, you lose by 20, I can see them learning from it. You know, obviously we learn from negative things. You find out fire is hot by getting burnt the first time, but I'm not sure if that translates into a group of millionaires and people who have been playing the game for this long. Now, they turned around and started a pretty impressive streak after the loss, so the numbers suggest I'm wrong, but when I first heard this quote, it didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah, I don't think it's 48% either, but it definitely would be, I see you trying to do math in your head.
Yeah, it's only 90. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that's tough. But anyways, you're still reeling over there.
You were so happy to be right. You finally had one in your pocket, and now you don't have the spike line. You don't have something to really just underline how great that was. That's unfortunate. I can help you if you like, but I feel like that would take away your thunder.
Yeah, I'm riding high off that one. But so I was so distracted by feeling so good about that. Did you say that you didn't feel like you could take away something from a loss?
I did say that. Well, what I said, I'm not going to restate it. I would hope that the audience didn't completely tune out either, so we won't force them to re-listen to the take. I tell you what, later on, listen to this last segment and do two things. One, listen to what I said, and two, come up with a phenomenal comeback to just put me down on the math.
So let me just get back to the game here. And I got to say, Joakim Noah, somebody who I initially despised, I've come to love him. I respect his passion so much, his competitive drive. And what really impressed me is I saw a documentary about Lenny Cook. And in it, Lenny Cook, who becomes this washed-up, no-name guy from New York, but still he played with Noah, I guess, pickup and stuff like that. So he shows up at a game when the Bulls played the Knicks. And afterwards, Noah comes out, and Lenny Cook's like, hey, you know, let's go hang out, like, we'll go party. And Noah says to him, nah, I'm still not where I want to be. I got to get better, so I can't do that. And it was just impressive. Like, I thought of this guy as just somebody who went out and partied hard, and he just said, no, I want to keep getting better.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Noah seems like the type of guy you'd love to play with and just hate to play against.
Great point.
You know, it's probably a little bit dirty, but the type of things you can't ever prove to the ref, and if he's your teammate, you love and appreciate on just a consistent basis. Last game, and really briefly, because this was a burger game, Toronto, and we don't even have to go through the ins and outs. I just had a couple of questions. One, Jermaine O'Neal didn't play in this game because apparently he had passport problems. Who the hell's job is it on the Warriors to make sure that this fool has a passport? How do you just miss out on that?
That's incredible. It's like we talked about last week, how we forget that these people are kind of regular humans and they can't just appear at the game. They have to drive to the game. They have to pack their bags. I mean, who doesn't get that passport together?
I mean, this fool is a pretty big portion of the team. You know, like he's not a leading star, but he's getting a lot of minutes. If we were traveling as part of a show somewhere, like a TV show, and you get all the way out there and then one of like the really important actors isn't there because they couldn't secure his passport, like what the hell are you talking about on that? So that bothered me for sure. Second one, there's all of these allegations, all these stories, all these suggestions that Kyle Lowry is an asshole. In fact, when we were still considering bringing him on as a portion of the Warriors, there was talk that Bob Myers didn't want him here disrupting the team. Would you have any problem if someone was a phenomenal player but was also a dick? Would you have any problem with him joining the team, or do you think skill beats out personality?
It really depends on how much of a dick that person's being. And how talented they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're...
a sliding scale kind of thing.
It is, it's a sliding scale because, I don't know, if you've got LeBron James, Kevin Durant skill, then I'll probably take you on my team.
He can slap teammates and you don't give a shit.
Right, but gosh, I mean, definitely not someone on Kyle Lowry's level. And I think chemistry is just so important, and being a good teammate is so important to victory that I wouldn't want to bring that type of person into the locker room.
This probably shows why I'd be a terrible GM. I think I look at all teams like fantasy teams. You know, I don't even care if they talk to one another. I don't care if they get along or there's people getting slapped. I just want talent. So it was weird to hear that kind of analysis, but of course you're right, and of course I understand it. All right, a little bit of housekeeping before we get the hell out of here. A while back, right before the All-Star game, you and I placed a $50 bet on who could pick the most things right. Neither of us were very impressive, but I somehow squeaked that out and we forgot to announce it. So you owe me 50 beans, big man, and an immediate follow-up question. Money tends to burn its way through my pockets. I like to bet it immediately. Here's the question. I've looked up the championship odds. The favorites, the Heat, are plus 180. Bet 100, you win 180. The Pacers are 4-1, Thunder 4-1, San Antonio 8-1, and the Golden State Warriors are 22-1. If I'm putting this 50 somewhere, Scotty, where does it go?
You put on the Spurs at 8-1. I just think those are good odds.
So
I don't think that the Spurs would necessarily are going to win the championship, but if I'm trying to get the most for my money,
it's going. You like them. I think I'm going to put it on the Heat, and I feel like that is such a...
That's a bad move.
Just a vagina move. I mean, just not showing any kind of testicular fortitude whatsoever. But that's where I'm starting to hedge towards.
No, not the Warriors.
And when that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, we announced at the beginning of the show we're going to try to figure out, are these guys actually dark horse contenders now? I guess in my mind, as much as I love them, as much as I think they're heading in the right direction, I don't think the word contender sticks with this team quite yet. Hopefully it's in the very near future, but maybe not as we sit here today.
I think in a year or two, you're going to see them at the Indiana level, that 4-1, because by then they will have had enough time to play together. Their core is solid, just like Indiana.
Sure.
I'm sure if you look 2-3 years ago at this time, Indiana was a 22-1.
And maybe we get that David West edition, something like that. One more free agent who kind of solidifies the entire lineup and makes us into the legit contender we should be. Last housekeeping bit, they changed the Klay commercial we talked about last week. The We Are Warriors commercial, we went back and forth about how it ends when that woman gives Klay that look that says he can come get it from her. They've taken that out entirely, so now it ends before she does the motioning over to her scene, which kind of bothers me, man. It's my favorite part of the commercial.
Well, I don't know if this was in response to that and he's trying to keep women from doing that to him, but Klay Thompson's goatee, oh my God, what's going on with that? He needs to take that off quickly.
Is it bothering you? I'm just happy you had a hair take, man. And I'm upset that I didn't come up with it first. I do like the idea that women everywhere are starting to give him that motioning thing that this woman from the commercial did. All right, sweet. Huge fun, per usual. Quick quote from the world of Charles Barkley before we get out of here. Quote, when I was recruited at Auburn University, they took me to a strip joint. When I saw those titties on Buffy, I knew that Auburn met my academic requirements. Thank you guys for hanging out. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you next week as well. Until then, please remember, we can be found on Twitter at Warriors Huddle. Our email account is at warriorshuddle@gmail.com. The website remains warriorsworld.net.
And that's where we'll be posting the video of this podcast too. So if you want to see the video action we got going, definitely check that
That video is legit too, man. Our boys Aaron and Laris are doing an amazing job. And finally, you can find us on iTunes as well as a bunch of other podcasting services where you can please rate us and subscribe. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in a week.
Good.